If you've been feeling like you're under enemy attack, but you're not sure why, this message is for you. Welcome to the Thrive Podcast, your daily boost that's all about becoming clear about who you really are. I was watching one of those YouTube videos yesterday where this guy was making all kinds of stuff out of gallium. If you haven't seen the videos, gallium is basically a metal that has a fairly low melting point, which means that you only need to heat it up a little bit and it melts. And because it's non-toxic and stable, you can literally melt this stuff and hold it in your hand, which is what the guy on YouTube was doing. It's quite freaky to look at, because we're not used to molten metal being cool enough to hold in our hands, and the way it flows and pulls is quite mesmerizing. I remember back when I was a kid and this movie came out called Terminator 2 Judgement Day. It was a sci-fi action film with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton and Edward Furlong, who were the good guys, and Robert Patrick, who played this shape-shifting T-1000 Terminator who was made entirely of liquid metal. The T-1000 had the ability to turn any of his limbs into hard metal objects like swords or hooks, and he was able to walk through prison bars by reforming around them as he passed through. The special effects in this movie were cutting edge for the time, and every time the T-1000 would get shot, he would have a huge hole blown in him that would magically flow back together. Even when the T-1000 was frozen, shattered, and spread across the floor, all the different shards would melt, flow back together, and reform, just like gallium does in the YouTube videos I was watching. At the start of the movie, you've got a kid called John living with foster parents because his mother has been locked up in a mental hospital. Then a T-1000 Terminator arrives from the future. Just out of interest, he's from 2029, which really isn't that far away. And he has the sole purpose of killing John, the kid, to try and prevent the important role he's going to have in the future as a resistance leader. But the future John has also sent back an older model 101 Terminator to protect his younger self. So the whole movie is pretty much about this creepy T-1000 with the metallic special effects pursuing and trying to kill John and his mother, who gets busted out of the mental hospital, all the while being protected by the more real and low-tech Terminator played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, Terminator 2 may just be an old movie these days, but the story highlights an important point. John Connors, the kid who started the movie living with the foster family, wasn't much of a threat to anyone in his current form, and yet he suddenly found himself under attack. As Christians, we need to realise that the enemy doesn't just place obstacles in our way to stop us achieving things for the kingdom from day to day. He also works ahead of time in an attempt to prevent us from stepping into our purpose. The spiritual attack you're feeling may not be about what's going on, in your life right now. It could very much be about who you're going to be in the future. Believe it or not, there are plenty of examples in the Bible where the enemy attacks whole generations of children in an attempt to stop important people from reaching their potential. In Exodus chapter 1, the king of Egypt instructs the Hebrew midwives to kill every baby boy. And when that doesn't happen as planned, he orders all of the people to throw every Hebrew boy into the Nile. Enter Moses, who is hidden for 3 months by his family, before being placed in a basket, discovered by Pharaoh's daughter, and the rest is history. Then we have the case of King Herod, who, realizing that he'd been outwitted by the Magi who hadn't reported back on Jesus' location, gave the order for all the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under to be killed. Luckily, God had warned Joseph in a dream, and Jesus was taken to safe refuge in Egypt. I want you to notice something really important about both of these scenarios. Just like grown-up John Connors from the future had sent back protection for his younger self, God knows exactly how he has gifted you, what your purpose is, and what you are going to achieve for the kingdom in the future. And he does not leave you unprotected. Even though both of the attacks I just mentioned from the Bible were carried out on infants who clearly weren't in a position to defend themselves, God made sure they were protected by the people around them. As we become more mature, we also have the armour of God to defend ourselves with, and if you need a refresher, you can read more about that in Ephesians chapter 6. There's also an entire heavenly host of protection on offer. What is important is that we don't allow attacks of the enemy to distract us or prevent us from walking in what God has called us to do. If that's something you want to know more about, then make sure you subscribe and get notifications for when new Thrive episodes are released. Also, if you have a friend who might benefit from this message, make sure you share this with them. And if you're here watching because someone shared this with you and you got something out of being here, now's the time to message them to say thanks before you get stuck into the next message. Until next time, blue skies.